kind of have to try it again, right? Hey everyone, my name is UkioTP, and this is my blindfolded run of Lakebed Temple. Right off the bat, we're doing some memorized movement in the first room just to get the lever and open the gate. After pulling the lever, the chews that drop are kind of annoying. They will eat any L target input and also sometimes hit Link on the way down, so I save time just by saving and quitting. It's a lot less of a headache. In the following room, things get kind of real. We need to use a series of LJAs to progress the door, but LJAs require aiming. Instead of aiming, I use a see-up buffer setup to get just to the right of the first target. Moving the analog stick left from this position will cause the lock prompt to make a slight sound. Knowing what around you is close enough to lock onto and what is not close enough to lock onto helps you deduce approximately where you're looking at. After doing the LJA and getting onto the boulder, I need to get to the very top right of this boulder to be able to make the LJA onto the next platform. However, from this position, it's very difficult to navigate to the top right without sliding off the right side. This position may look good, but remember that I can't see, so I don't know exactly what part of the boulder I climbed up on. To make sure I attempt the next LJA from the same spot every time, I use a setup where I fall off the left side and then climb back up. But someone doesn't like that idea. Here's another example of using the boomerang to determine exactly where I'm looking at. If I spin around in a circle throwing the boomerang here, there's only one part of the wall that will send the boomerang almost immediately back to me. From that position, I hold left while clicking the trigger twice. This is a method of throwing the boomerang that is more consistent than it looks. I hold the analog stick left and click the right trigger twice. The right triggers have no purpose aside from helping me time when to stop holding left on the analog stick. It isn't a perfect solution that some people would want, but I think in a game like TP with such a dynamic aiming system, it's crazy how good that is. Approximate solutions like this may be necessary to actually complete a full blindfolded run. The center room of Lakebed is comprised entirely of memorized movement. It's very important that you do not mess up any of the memorized movement, because doing so will cause you to lose your place and ultimately result in a save and quit. In a circular room, it's extremely helpful to maintain a constant L target the entire time you're navigating it, even when moving in the opposite direction. Always knowing where north is very useful. Imagine you have a paper map laid out on a table in front of you, and there's a door at the very top of the map. If I placed your finger anywhere inside that map and told you to close your eyes, you'd still be able to navigate to that door. But if I began to rotate the map and placed you in the exact same place, finding that door is completely up to chance. The tricks we're about to attempt are about to rank up in difficulty. Luckily, we have a very useful tool at our disposal. Uku. Uku is the only reason my head is still on my body, because without Uku, a failed attempt at any of these tricks would result in a very, very lengthy process of either saving and quitting to return to where we were, or an extensive amount of backups to return to the beginning of each room. Uku lets us leave the temple and then return to the start of the room we were in, giving us a consistent starting point. Every movement is intentional. Like breaking Uku out of the pot, the very far left of the third spin attack here picks up Uku in a way that leaves the camera in a beneficial angle, where the backflips that follow lead us directly to the next corner I'm trying to get to. I was slightly out of the corner, so I didn't hit the pot, but because I held the L target the entire time, I was able to reset my position and try again. It's definitely a lot of things to remember, and it feels unrealistic to remember it all in a single run. Here's what I'll say. When you have the blindfold on, and you can only hear the audio from the game, you are essentially Link if his eyes were closed. You begin to focus so hard on where you are in relation to everything that you see it from the point of view of Link. You essentially immerse yourself in the game as if it's VR. It can be very disorienting at times, and I've even gotten dizzy and had to take breaks. If you think that sounds over the top, try it. You'll realize just how many sounds you're missing in a casual playthrough because you're relying on your eyes. In Lakebed, every footstep you take is echoey, and in some places, you're stepping through water. Meanwhile, water's pouring from waterfalls in every direction. Sounds of the world are also being drowned by the sound of the music. The surround sound of this GameCube game isn't perfect either, so exactly pinpointing where an enemy is or where something is just on the sound it's producing isn't always reliable. And the worst feeling is when you truly believe that you are somewhere, just to be proven wrong by bonking your head into something that you didn't think was there. It can destroy your entire sense of location, and at that level of immersion, it shatters reality. Anywho, it took 4 minutes to get from the start of the center room to Uku and then to the next door. Fortunately for me, I didn't make any major mistakes in the center room, leading me on the path to our first really big trick. So far, I've only had to make a couple edits to keep the flow of the video going and avoid showing you failures. This upcoming trick, however, was the most amount of time I spent repeating a trick. In fact, while failing the trick, I began to troubleshoot what I was doing wrong and corrected it while blindfolded. If you don't believe that I did all of this in one run, the full unedited version of the run will also be uploaded on my YouTube channel. I think vision is overrated, but someone like you should take a look. The next trick revolves completely around the sound of the lock prompt. I use a C-up buffer to set up a range between two different lock prompts. The lock prompt on the right has a piece of the gear sticking out on the left that would allow me to LJA if I threw the boomerang just above it. Finding the exact position to aim at is a little difficult, but my setup is pretty consistent. See if you can hear the lock prompt range that I'm talking about. You'll hear one on the left, which causes me to aim to the right, and then when I hit the one on the right, I'll start to aim slightly to the left. Spamming lock here lets me know exactly where I'm supposed to be aiming. I want to throw the boomerang on the pixel closest to the gear that I cannot lock onto. I mean, that's just fantastic. I combine this method of aiming with the trigger method I use in the stalactite room. You didn't see all the targets, but if you look at my input display, I definitely pressed the trigger twice. I mean, come on. In order to access Deku Toad from the exit, we need early boss flag. Fortunately for me, I've already figured out how to achieve early boss flag by doing Forest back in time, blindfolded. The only reason I would use this route is if it was implied that during a complete run, I would achieve early boss flag. Early boss flag is looking like a must, skipping most of Forest Temple and Water Temple. Difficult is not the word I would use to describe fighting Deku Toad. I'm drawn more towards the word obnoxious. His large bulbous body makes it difficult to find his tongue, and I still need practice hitting the one cycle without seeing Link's sword. Because it's kind of a lengthy fight, without any real risk of me dying, I'm going to opt to speed through it, so we can continue on with the cooler tricks. If you want to see the full fight versus Deku Toad, it'll be on the full video. This was my second attempt at a full run. My first attempt failed because the stairwell at the very end, right before the final trick, was in an orientation that I didn't anticipate it being in. I had no way of correcting it and no backup, so I had to restart. I figured out a backup, practiced it a few times, and then started the second run. After defeating Deku Toad again, I was filled with anxiety and excitement. I kept thinking, is this really it? Is this going to happen? Okay, clearly my setups are somewhat consistent, yes? After defeating Deku Toad, getting the claw shot, and saving and quitting, I go through the first room, do the stalactite room again, and back into the main room, where I will now do the setup that I just came up with right before this run began. I need to make it across the room and reorientate the stairwell. After doing so, I'll uku out back to the front door and do one of the hardest, most precise setups that I've done yet. Blindfolded boss key skip. Here I know I claw shot the vines, but what I don't know is that Link instantly let go because of his relation to the wall. After falsely popping off, I realize what happened and back it up by just spinning in a circle and aiming up with a claw shot, knowing that the vines have a pretty large surface area for me to hit just through random chance. Okay. I'm assuming I dropped off because I was too low. Okay, now I'm like on the top, I'm guessing, because it just made a little grunt noise, like you can't go any higher. Here I take some time because I know a Tektite is nearby, and I'm trying to bait it in and kill it before I begin my setup so that it doesn't interrupt me. However, the Tektite got stuck on a wall, so I just heard a continuous loop of the Tektite approaching without it ever actually making it to me. The Tektites do take a moment to pause before jumping on you for an actual attack, but that pause in the sound just never came. Eventually I got it and reset my angle by hanging off a ledge. Okay. A few more moments of memorized movement later, and we're sitting pretty. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes! Okay. The moment was set. Crowning jewel of my blindfolded trick so far. I was mentally prepared to be stuck here for longer than the rest of the run has taken so far. Here we go. But then, this happened. We start off by shooting the left railing with a claw shot. A beautiful clanking sound. We want the claw shot to be barely on the railing, as far left as we can without losing contact. I want to make sure it's right, because missing this jump means I have to swim to shore, uku out, uku back in, start again from the top. Once I find a shot I'm happy with, I back up, take a breath, and take a leap. Upon landing, I use what has been referred to as the wiggle strat, straighten Link's facing angle. I jumped off at a diagonal angle, but I need to be parallel with the bridge's railing. Luckily there's a dent in the wall that holds Link in place while wiggling back and forth. Knowing how much to wiggle while blind is based on intuition. It is terrifying attempting the rest of the trick, feeling like you didn't wiggle enough. Link shoots his claw shot from his left hand, and his model tries very hard to be accurate, meaning that if a wall is in front of Link, but his hand is reaching around it, the claw shot will not be stopped by the wall. For this trick to work, I need to be as far left as possible without popping out, but if I stay too far right, when I start doing the backflips, I'll fall into the water below and have to retry. Using the design of Link's model, I start to listen for an uninterrupted claw shot that reaches farther than before. I'm taking it slow, because if I press too hard on the analog stick here, Link will just simply walk off the railing, and I'll have to retry. Gotta go for it. Gotta go for it. Might fail. Fortunately for me, I have more patience than a hospital. Holy shit. You guys just witnessed history. Anybody is here right now, you just witnessed the entirety of Lakebed. Completed blindfolded. Okay, I'll mess this up here. Nice. Holy shit. As you may have guessed, fighting Morpheal is not all that difficult or that interesting. At this point in the run, I would have Zora's armor. There's no way to do blindfolded without Zora's armor, so unless you intended on doing swimming with water bombs the entire time you fought Morpheal. But as you can see, this fight takes quite a long time, but there's no real risk of dying or failing, just a matter of time. It's done. Ladies and gentlemen, Ukyo TP, yours truly, Daredevil of the Twilight Princess community. A day or two later, after completing Snow Peak Ruins, Lakebed Temple has fallen. The idea of a complete blindfolded run, segmented or not, is becoming more realistic every day. I want to say a special thanks to everybody who's been supporting me on this, and thanks for watching. Shoutouts to the TP running community. See you later. Get me out of here.